and good afternoon. It is noon, and today we're going to be talking about devices and what they do to our brains. Now, most of us who are full grown and mature, we know that we're not to be spending all of our time online or on with our devices, but children do not have that. And so this article is pretty much about children and how too much time on their devices can cause them to have behavioral problems, anxiety problems, not cooperative in class, just being a general pain. And so we know that this happens. I used to be a teacher. I spent a lot of time in the classroom, mostly parochial schools, but I did do public school as well. I did university. I did all the different levels. And then at one time in my life, I was a principal for an alternative school. And so all of these things are things that I have seen, but this was in years past. Even though children had cell phones, they were not always smartphones, and they did not have all of the things that we have today. I think the last time I was in the classroom was 2010, and so that's been a minute, and things have changed since then. Certainly things have changed since 2020 when quite a few schools, I would say almost 100%, went to 100% virtual learning, which means that the children weren't in front of their screens 8 hours a day or whatever the school day was, which I don't think that many hours in front of the screen for any reason is very good. However, times are changing. And so we want to look at and analyze and maybe even examine ourselves with our children and our grandchildren to see if maybe we may be setting them up for failure long term when we give them a device as a pacifier, as a babysitter, and that kind of thing. One of the things that we go out to dinner, certainly after church on Sunday and that kind of thing, and one of the things that just breaks my heart is that we'll walk by a table with a parent, with two parents, a man and a woman, I'm assuming they're parents, and multiple children, 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, and all 6 of the people who are at that table are on their devices. They're not interacting with each other, they're not learning about each other, they're not making memories with each other. Everybody is just very, very isolated on their devices. And I find that very, very sad. When my children were young, family meals were very important. There were no phone calls allowed. There were no visitors. I mean, we would have people over for dinner and that kind of thing, but nothing interrupted a family meal. The television wasn't on. And it was a time when we interacted, we asked about their day, we asked about, what was troubling them or what we could do better or whatever. But it was a time that we had memories. Some of my fondest memories are around the table. And so people just aren't getting that right now. And so this article is about the harm that devices do, particularly to children. I know, and y'all are just going to get a whole lot of true confessions here. I run my business from my cell phone. Now, I have a brick and mortar office, but my calendar's on my phone, my email's on my phone, my text is on my phone, and of course, phone calls are on my phone. Now, I have an office number. However, I can have that switched over if I need to. And so my phone is an integral part of my day. However, early on, I found out that if I got notifications for every Facebook message, every text, every phone call, every Twitter, X, whatever the notification was, my phone was going off all the time, and it was really getting on my nerves. So I silenced all of my notifications except for text and phone. Because why? Because I don't want to have that electronic interruption in my day, because I know that I need to be focused, I need to be attending to what I need to be attending to in the day. And if I'm constantly being interrupted by my phone or my tablet or whatever, then that's not going to be good for me mentally, and it's not going to be good for you if you are somebody that I'm trying to help with a health concern. So there's a specific child whose name is Billy, and he's 10 years old, and he was having all the things that we talked about, behavioral issues, attentive issues, all those kind of things, bad attitudes, not doing well in school, and he was also a very poor sport out on the playing field. And so his mom took him to Dr. Victoria Dunkley, I think that's how you say that, who is a pediatric psychiatrist specializing in screen use. After a 4-week screen fast, that means he didn't have any screen time, that was prescribed by the doctor. It eliminated all access to TVs, phones, and video games, Billy's problems miraculously cleared up. His parents were so pleased that they decided to maintain the fast. So I think that's a little drastic. You might have to do that at first to get people's attention. I think that a little bit of screen time is okay. I am not for children having smartphones. I am not for children being online all the time. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I don't want my grandchildren on. I don't want, I just don't think it's healthy. My grandchildren do have phones. They do have parental controls on them. When my grandchildren come to see me, they'll say, "Great, can we play a game online?" And yes, we can. It takes about 10 minutes. We play a game, then they're off. They're doing something else. We're playing a board game, or we're playing checkers. We're playing something else that we're interacting, and we're laughing, and we're strategizing, and all those kind of things. So, but these parents were so impressed with the change in their son's attitude that they decided to keep the fast. 6 months passed. Billy's friends were no longer avoiding him. His sportsmanship had improved markedly. He decided to run for class president. He delivered a speech that earlier would have terrorized him, and he wouldn't have done that. And so Billy is one of Dr. Dunkley's many patients whose mental and behavioral problems disappeared once they significantly reduced their screen time. So according to a 2012 Gallup poll, it found that 60% of young adults admitted to spending too much time on the internet. In a subsequent survey in 2022, 83% of smartphone users said they kept their phone with them all the time or almost all the time. That's 83%. And so that tells you that we are very, very addictive to our devices, and that is understandable because we want to know, we want to get the news right here, right now. I don't want to miss a text from my children. I don't want to do any of that. But we don't want to have 83% of human beings, glued into their phone, because we want you to be, glued into each other. So people who spend a lot of time on screens outside of work are typically enjoying short videos, films, television shows, social media, or video games. All of these screen-based forms of entertainment offer similar emotional experiences of novelty, discovery, and instant reward. This process is both stressful and satisfying at the same time. Now, I will tell you, I admit I play some games on my device. I do it not very often and not for very long, but I do it with the sound turned off. Why do I do that? Because I don't want to hear all that. It makes me nervous. I don't like it. And so I keep my sound turned off. So the problem with these devices is that these screens, playing these games, watching these videos, can overstimulate our brains, resulting in perpetual stress known as fight or flight state. This state, which is called sympathetic dominance, all right, it stresses the brain and the body, and it makes us prone to meltdowns, depression, and anxiety, even when minor changes in the environment occur. So you've got a central nervous system. Part of that system is your sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, or parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and restore. So we want to be in parasympathetic dominance all the time. Rest, restore, enjoy our life, everything's happy-go-lucky and all that kind of stuff. When the saber-toothed tiger is, chasing us, we want to ramp up sympathetic dominance because we want to run for our life. We want to have that adrenaline rush so that we're able to get away from the saber-toothed tiger, right? But then when that threat is over, we want parasympathetic to come back up. Unfortunately, with all of the things that we're dealing with today, most of us stay in sympathetic dominance, which means we're on the go, we're on attack, we're on alert all the time. That means our cortisol gets jacked up, our adrenaline gets jacked up, and we can actually go into a full-blown physical meltdown. Now, one of the products that we have here that we recommend often is something called cortisol. Now, cortisol controls cortisone. So if you find yourself in that fight or flight pattern just because life is just not good to you, and sometimes it's just like that. Sometimes we have really bad weeks, really bad months, really bad years, and we stay in that fight or flight paradigm for a long time. We can't calm down. Well, that cortisol helps us to calm down. Here is another device that we use here in the clinic. It's called Brain Tap. I don't know if that's backwards for you, but let me show you this. If you turn it on, you can see here it's got red light and blue light, and inside the visor, it's got blue lights. They're not turned on because I'm not hooked up, right? But what you do is you put this on your head, and you hook it up to your phone, and you hook it up to an app, and you put on a certain, they've got a bazillion programs, so it doesn't really matter which one you put on, but what it will do, it will send sound and light into your brain, and it will cause you to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic, and that's what you want. I've done this multiple times. I have kind of a stressful office. People come in here, they can have a meltdown in front of me and that kind of thing because their health is so, upsetting. I don't want to take that on. Sometimes, I get in the moment with them and that kind of thing. And so what I need to do is get myself back in parasympathetic dominance where I can hear them, I can respond to them appropriately, and I'm not anxious and I'm not stressed out. So one of the things that you can do is you can take something to modulate the cortisol that your body is producing, or you can do brain therapy so that you're able to get your brain rewired right in the right place. Call the clinic or email on this link, and we will give you a link where you can try Brain Tap. Now, you're not going to want to, well, you might want to. You can buy the goggles. It's about $1,000 or something like that. But you can also just put your earphones in, listen to the program. You're going to have something going on in this ear, something going on in this ear. And what that does is it entrains the brain to get back down into parasympathetic dominance, and it's really, really good. Each program is about 22 minutes, so it doesn't take a long time at all. I love the fact that you can shift into parasympathetic dominance. I love the fact that they've got stress programs, they've got weight loss programs, they've got motivational programs. So if you're feeling not all that in a bag of chips, you can listen to these programs that give you affirmations and build you up and give you positive things to think on. And so it shifts your mood, it shifts the way your brain works, and it's really, really good for anxiety and depression. So the initial link between screen time and poor mental health was spotted through generational studies by Jean Twenge, who is a professor at the San Diego University with a doctorate in psychology. She says, I used to think that changes would grow slowly and steadily over time. She said this in a TED Talk. After 2010, I started to see some changes that were much more sudden, and I've never really seen anything like this. In about 2010, social media and internet use saw a dramatic increase followed by an increase in major depression. So there is a correlation between screen use and depression. So if you're a grandma, if you're a mom, and you're seeing this in your children, your teenagers, you might want to do a screen fast. Between 2005 and 2012, the change in rates of depressive episodes in teens aged 12 through 17 barely exceeded 1%. However, between 2012 and 2017, there was almost a 4% increase. Fewer teenagers were going outside or reading books. They were using all their time on social media. So as a reading teacher, I want to tell you what this does. When you're on your screen, now let me back up a little bit. When I did my master's degree in education, my thesis was on attention deficit disorder. So I am kind of an expert on this. And so one of the things that we learn is that the brain, and I'm so thankful for my mother. So I don't know if my mother's watching today, but I'm so thankful for my mother because back in the day, there were no screens, but my mother made sure that we went to the library every 2 weeks in the summer. We joined the summer reading plan, and we read all those books all through the summer. So when you're reading those books, when you're spending your time doing that, you're training your brain to go left to right in a linear fashion. That means you're orderly. That means your brain is not all jumbled up. When you're looking at a screen, if you haven't paid attention to your screen, just take a few moments, not right now, but when you're relaxing, just take a few moments and look at your screen, and you're going to see color blobs going everywhere. You're going to see movement. You're going to hear sound. And it's not training your brain to go in a linear fashion. You're here, and you're here, and you're here, and you're here. And so screen time actually induces ADD and ADHD behavior. So you might want to look at that. When I did this a long time ago, there was the information out there and the research out there that showed if you're not training, if you don't with your children, train your brain to work linearly left to right, then you're going to increase their chances of ADD and ADHD. In about 2012, when 30% of the teenagers had a smartphone, the doctor started to see rebellious behavior and anxiety disorders becoming more common among children. Young adults and teenagers are growing up tending to be more antisocial, have reduced emotional resilience, which may be related to insufficient in-person socialization because they're spending all of their time behind the screens. Now, about 10 to 15 years ago, it's been a minute, I was at church and the pastor was talking about being very egocentric and being very isolated. And what he was talking about was that people were behind their screen. This is all my focus is right here on my screen. And so I'm all just tunnel vision and what's going there. I'm not interacting with people. I'm not aware of people. I'm not aware of a situation. I'm not aware, even for your safety, if you're not aware of a situation because you're, too into your phone. And that message has always just stuck with me because I thought, oh my goodness, we don't want to get so insular, just paying attention to what we need to pay attention to, that we're missing out on the bigger things of life. The doctor said it's just not that amount of time spent in the cyber world, but also they're missing outside play and social learning. So there have been a few studies on addictive behavior, internet addictive behavior. However, since 2020, and you guys know what I'm talking about, there was a study on adults. It was a large study in 2021, and it showed that those who considered the risk of internet addiction were 2 to 3 times more likely to have a depressive episode and 1.9 times more likely to have anxiety than the general population. Furthermore, people with definite or severe addiction were 13 times more likely to have both depression and anxiety. Now, I will just tell you, as a practitioner, many, many days I have people coming in with anxiety and depression, and they don't know why. And it could be that they're just spending too much time on their screen. After 2020, teachers are reporting that members of the latest generation known as Gen Alpha, also known as the iPad kids, tend to be aggressive and undisciplined and regulate emotions poorly in the classroom. Dr. Clifford Sussman, who is a psychiatrist specializing in screen addiction, has focused his practice on treating this condition by because of the increasing need. Especially after 2020, the demand for help with these issues has exploded. So why is this a problem? Well, I alluded to that at the beginning of the report when I said when I play a video game, and I do, I'm honest with you, I do. I play solitaire for about 5 minutes. I play, what else do I play? I play 2 types of solitaire. One for about 5 minutes, one for about 10 minutes, and then I play gummy drop or whatever it is, and I play that for maybe 10 minutes just as a relaxation exercise. However, I keep the sound off. I find the sounds very annoying. But it is the sounds that addict you because the sounds show you when you're getting your rewards. It shows you when you're getting close to a reward and that kind of thing. And it pops up dopamine in the brain. And what that does is that encourages you to do more of that behavior because you want to have that, mental stimulation there. So this is all of your screen activities, including video games, social media, internet scrolling, or video streaming. They all have built into them addictive rewards so that it keeps you online longer. It's highly stimulating for the brain because of the bright colors and the seamless integration. And Dr. David Rosenfeld, who is a psychotherapist and medical professor at Buenos Aires University, said that when presented with anything new and exciting, the brain releases dopamine and anything that induces dopamine release can be addictive. Dopamine produces a feeling of pleasure, while a drop in it is linked to irritability and poor moods. So dopamine is one of those neurotransmitters in your brain. When it goes off, you feel pleasure, you feel excitement, and it's something that you want to feel again. So these games are designed to hit that pleasure button again and again and again to keep you on the screen longer than you maybe intended to. So video games are governed by microscopic rules, says Bennett Foddy, who teaches game design at the New York University's Game Center. He was quoted as saying in his book, Irresistible, The Rise of Addictive Technology and the Business of Keeping Us Hooked. Okay, this is a book that he was referencing by Adam Alter, and it was excerpted by the Guardian newspaper. Now, these micro rules can be a ding, a sound, a white flash, or whatever, whenever a character moves over a particular square, and they are synced to the player's action, so the players feel as if they caused this response. This microfeedback generates a sense of reward, hooking people into continuously playing the game. This system might also explain why interactive screen activities may be more problematic for children than passive screen activities such as just watching television. So Dr. Dunkley has observed that while watching 2 hours of television per day is linked to signs of dysregulation in children, just 30 minutes of interactive screen activities are stimulating enough for these signs to occur. So what is dysregulation? Dysregulation is when something is out of order. So this psychiatrist says 2 hours of screen time is enough to, you get the zombie brain. Just 30 minutes of interactive gaming, Facebook, social media, whatever, just 30 minutes is enough for these things to take place in the children's brain. So this is one reason why I am not in favor of children having smartphones. Yes, I know they're out and about. We need to get a hold of them. We need to text them. We need to have them on the phone. I get that. But there needs to be parental control so they're not spending so much time on the screens, because we are seeing more and more children that are rude. They're not able to handle their emotions. They're not able to attend to a conversation. They're not able to attend to their tasks in school. And I volunteer to tell you this. A few years back, I was on the board of directors of our local Chamber of Commerce. I was invited to participate in the educational they were doing a prospectus moving forward. How could they reach more children? How could they do all the things that they were wanting to do, and how much money did they need? So I think it was a grant thing. And I was invited to participate, and most of the other teachers that were on the platform or the forum, they wanted to have more and more screens, and they wanted the school districts to spend money on more screens, more tablets, more laptops, and that kind of thing, which I was absolutely opposed to it because I had done my work before with attention deficit disorder, and I knew that you cannot police what the children are watching on their phones, on their devices, on their Chromebooks, or whatever it is. And so even though you're trying to give them what's going on in the lesson, they're glued to that screen and they're not paying attention to you up here as the teacher, the instructor. They're not paying attention to their peers. They're not learning how to interact. They're not learning social manners. They're not learning any of those things. So I was against that. I was overruled, okay, because they went for that. I don't think that's a good idea. When my grandchildren come to visit, we don't pull out our iPads. We don't do any of that because we want to engage with them. We don't want to engage in the screen and miss building the memories that we have with them. Many video games use strategies such as gambling, loot boxes, and rewards in which players are rewarded at random intervals. They never know when they're going to get that reward, and so they keep playing, hoping that the next play is going to give them a reward. And they're not even enjoying what they're doing, but they're doing it because they are anticipating that reward. I would rather hug my kids. I would rather hug my grandkids. I would rather go out and enjoy a nice meal. If you watch my Facebook page, you know that I like to eat. And I like to eat really good food, and that is a pleasurable thing for me to do, and I enjoy it. I would much rather be doing that than being on a screen and having, these empty rewards, all right? So, social media posts break information down into bite-sized pieces, feeding users a jolt of dopamine with every post, like, and comment. And what they also do, and I fall for this almost every time. The headline comes out, and it's like, oh, I want to know more about that. And then you read the headline, and it has nothing to do, or you read the article, it has nothing to do with that headline. So it is a definite bait and switch, and I find myself falling for that. And so it's something that I'm mindful of and try to limit in my own life. So in the real world, when you read a book, when you read a chapter, when you read a newspaper, you read an article, there is an end to it. When you're on social media, there is no end. It never ends. I mean, my husband and I, we make a joke that we've come to the end of the internet. And of course, you can't come to the end of the internet. And so the psychiatrists have a term for this, and it is called the doom scroll. You're just mindlessly scrolling, not paying attention, and you're just getting bombarded with all of this information. So when do screens eat up too much human time? Well, we know that this happens when we start seeing behavioral changes, we start seeing mood changes, we start seeing people are not able to interact with people in difficult situations, when people have meltdowns. And I mean, I've had meltdowns. I'll be honest, I have had meltdowns. I do not have meltdowns every day, and I don't have them very often. Sometimes life is really hard. When you're in your screens all the time, you don't develop those coping mechanisms. So when you get a disappointment, when you get an insult, when you get whatever you get, you should be able to say, oh, well, that hurt, but I'm going to go on about my merry way because they got a problem and we don't know what that is, but we're not going to let it destroy the day. When you're not able to develop those kind of coping mechanisms, then you get really, really depressive behavior, a lot of anxiety and that kind of thing, which you do not want. So the social acceptability and the pervasiveness of screens makes it hard for people to know when things are getting out of control. Just like alcohol, right? Alcoholics will always say they don't have a problem. It's the people that are around them that see it's the problem. Same thing with the screen time. So if your spouse, if your children are saying, Mommy, put down the phone, Mommy, put down the tablet, you may be somebody that needs an intervention because you're spending too much time on your screen. So listen to the people who are around you. They want you, they want your time, they want your attention, and they deserve it. Now, the studies show that an average American, this is American, they spend an average of 7 hours every day behind the screen, excluding work time or school time. Now, that's a lot. That's a lot of time. There's not that much time extra at the end of the workday. Once you've gone home, you've cooked your meal, you've gone out, you've had your meal with your spouse and that kind of thing. There's just not that many hours in the day to have 7 hours. So that means that most people are foregoing social, we used to call it social intercourse. I don't know if that's an appropriate term these days, but we go to parties and we go to dinner and we go to outings and we go to church and we go to all those places where we have this social interaction with people. If you're spending 7 hours in your phone, then you're not doing that, and that's not mentally healthy. So there is a counselor called Hillary Cash. She is the co-founder of Restart Life, which is a residential treatment center for tech addiction. I didn't know you could go to a residential center for tech addiction. She says that screen use is classified as problematic when it starts eating into time necessary for normal human functioning. People need about 8 hours of sleep every day. Average working time is 8.5 hours. They also need time to socialize, exercise, eat, shower, and manage daily affairs and hobbies. 7 hours of screen time daily would mean that necessary activities are being sacrificed. So, lots in this report. Look at how much time you're spending on your screen. Look at the people you love, how much time they're spending on the screen. Look at your children, how much time they're spending on the screen. Listen to your teacher. If your teacher says Johnny is combative, impulsive, has a poor attitude, won't attend to duties, all that kind of stuff, listen to that, and you may find that fasting, screen fasting, is something that you need to do for the benefit and the long-term health of your family. So, I mean, obviously, I'm talking to you through my screen. I'm not going to be giving up my screen, right? But I read tons. I'm not playing games all day. I'm not interacting on social media all day. So, you know, you've got to put things in perspective, and you've got to be able to use the technology for the good that it is for, but not get hooked into this mindless, scrolling, addictive behavior that really hurts you in the long run, because it messes up your neurotransmitters and it messes up your interpersonal relationships. So lots of information there. So let me know if something was not clear. Let me know if there was something that you had a question about, because there's just a lot more that I could have said that I didn't say because we ran out of time. It is the weekend, and always on the weekend, it's self-care. Do whatever it takes to down-regulate, get into that parasympathetic nervous system, take care of yourself, unplug, do all those kind of things, and I will see you next Friday. Take care.